we go. Recording. What's going on? Real quick one for you. I keep seeing and keep getting phone calls on this. Individuals that want to buy used manufactured homes, what does it look like? So let's get into it real quick. Here's the reality. When you buy a used manufactured home, when you talk about financing for that home, I understand why people do it. I have a buddy of mine, he does it. He makes a killing as an investor. What he does, he buys a land, he gets used manufactured homes, he puts those used manufactured homes, so they've been moved. They were already permanently placed somewhere. Then he moved them to a different location, dropped them there. He's specifically building those for buy and hold investments, which is smart because he's getting them cheap. They're like dirt cheap. He's getting the land cheap. And he's able to charge really good rents. And he's making a killing. Here's the bad part. What people don't think about is they don't think ahead. Here's the reality. That property, right? Once you move that manufactured home, it can't get financing. Let me rephrase. It can't get traditional financing. And that's what's really important because eventually, almost always, I'm going to say this and then I'll double back on it to really explain. Almost always, eventually, somebody's going to want to sell that property. So it's easy for you to sit there and go, well, I'll never sell it. I always want cash flow because when you talk about buy and hold properties, you're looking at the trifecta, right? I want appreciation, I want depreciation, and I want cash flow. In this particular scenario, really what you're looking for is cash flow because you're not going to get appreciation. It doesn't appreciate. I want you to wrap your head on that. So when you talk about a manufactured home, and let's give so real property, what is real property and what could provide a loan for real property on a manufactured home in order for it to where it could appreciate. So it is, was it June, April, May, June? Yeah, June 15th, 1976. So it's June 15th, 1976 or newer. That makes it a manufactured home. Anything previous to that is a mobile home, right? Means it rolls off on wheels, whole different hustle. This is when the HUD regulations came in. So 1976 or newer. It's permanently affixed to land that you own. So you have the bundle of rights all the way to the core of the earth, all the way above to the heavens. If that's real property. Any variation of that makes it not real property. Here's where the hustle comes in. When you take a manufactured home that was permanently affixed somewhere, and then you basically deconstruct it, you take it off its permanent foundation, you have to chop it up, you have to move it and replace it, it's going to show up in title. It's going to show up in title. Once it's been moved, nobody is going to consider that real property again. And if it's not real property, it does not appreciate the same way real property would appreciate. Now, will it appreciate in the sense of, because I know somebody's going to jump on here and say, well, it still appreciates. Okay, look, if you bought a piece of land and it was $50,000 and you held on to it for, 20 years, it's going to be worth more. And the fixtures that are on the property, because I saw a property out in Arizona yesterday, beautiful property out in Arizona, it's in Yucca, Arizona. And the guy was kind of asking, do I think the value of the property is worth more than land value for the 40 acres because of the structures that are on it? Well, of course there is. That's up to an appraiser to decide. But is it worth or will it appreciate the same way a real property would that's permanently affixed on the property? The answer is no. It just won't, right? So you're removing the appreciation value when you talk about a buy and hold property. This is the big one. If it's not real property, then you're not going to get traditional financing. So even if you plan on keeping it for the cash flow for the rest of your life until you die, somebody, ideally, if you're thinking smart, you're going to have heirs to the estate, right? So your children, your children's children, somebody, or even if it's a significant other or maybe even your gardener, I don't know, right? Somebody's going to either want to keep that property and rent it, or they're going to want to sell that property. When they look to sell it, if it's not real property because it's been moved and nobody can get financing on it, it's a cash deal. It's also not going to be appraised like real property. So when it gets appraised, it's going to be worth way less, significantly less than it would be if it was real property. So it creates challenges. So here's the way I would break it out to you. If you're buying, and I'm telling you, I get phone calls on this all the time. If you're going to buy a used manufactured home because it's cheap, just know what you're getting into. That's always been my thing. Eyes wide open. Know what you're getting into. You're getting into something where you're moving it over because it's cheap, but you're going to run into a hiccup if you think you're going to sell it down the road. And a lot of people think, well, I'm buying this because I can afford it. And then 5 years down the road, their life changes and they go, well, I want to sell this home that I have because they've been living in it's a house. And I'm going to make all this money because I've been looking around at comparable properties and it says it's now worth $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. I'm going to sell this. I'm going to take that equity and buy another home. No, you're not, partner. No, you're not. It's not worth that because it's not considered real property because it's been physically removed from a previous property and moved to a new property. Therefore, nobody is going to give traditional financing on that. When I say traditional financing, let's get into it. So what is that? VA, FHA, conventional type loans, which everybody that's borrowing money, because so this is the big one. How many people are running around with $500,000 or $600,000 to move into a regular single family house? Not many people. So you have to take that into consideration. It should be part of your strategy. If you're buying it to live in it and you're moving it because it's cheap, it should be part of your strategy for your next move because you're doing a step-up home. If you're an investor, it should be part of your strategy as well because now you're talking about, great, you have cash flow. But if it's not worth what it's worth at the end of it, even if you're trying to sell it, you could try to sell it to an investor in cash for the cash flow. But if it's not worth what it's worth, what you're asking, then it's still not worth what it's worth. Does that make sense? So think about it. Be cautious. I don't think it's a bad strategy. I think for a lot of people, it's a great strategy. But make sure you're going in eyes wide open. That's all I got. Appreciate you. Have a good one. Talk to y'all later.